These are interesting times indeed to be a Christian preacher. I mean, there's so much going on in the world. A lot of it is distressing, and so much of it is very political in nature. I mean, we could talk about international politics that affect us deeply. Tensions in NATO over Greenland, questions about Canadian sovereignty. And then there are other politics that may not affect us so directly, but are still deeply disturbing. For example, over the past while, all of the rising tension and violence in Minnesota and indeed across the United States around questions of immigration. Now, as I watch these political developments, I, like anyone else, have strong personal feelings. I go through feelings of shock, sorrow, anger, outrage. And to deny such feelings would be inauthentic. So my question is, how can I be an authentic preacher living in such times? For I am not a political commentator, nor should I be. It's not my job to tell people what party to vote for, and the church does need to be a place where we accept different political opinions. What's more, I'm no expert in politics, or in international law, or in treaties. I have no special knowledge of immigrants and refugees and their claims and cases and how they should be handled. Who am I, therefore, to tell you what to think about such things? I might get it wrong. If you want to understand such matters, you should listen to those who have studied them, not me. But what do I do when those who claim to be experts in those matters step into my area of expertise? What if, for example, the American Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, better known as ICE, starts to tell us how to interpret the Bible? Last month, ICE, which has been given a huge budgetary increase and the mandate to hire thousands of new officers, put out a recruiting video. Except it wasn't just a recruiting video, it was a biblical commentary. The video contained images of ICE agents at work. They were decked out in combat uniforms, employing lots of high-tech equipment from helicopters to night vision goggles. They were brandishing lethal and less than lethal weapons. Now, such images of ICE at work are nothing new. I mean, they may be disturbing, but if you've been paying attention, you've seen them before. But what caught my attention in this ad were the words, the only words in the entire ad. They appeared in Gothic letters, and yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a message in that font choice. There is a certain association with certain political ideologies. And the words that appeared over the montage of pictures were taken from the English Standard Version translation of our reading this morning. The words were, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Now, these were the only words in the ad other than some contact information at the end. So you may well wonder why I would call that a commentary, a biblical commentary. I mean, how can you comment on a text without, commenting? But we all know, don't we, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And the picture that accompany those words absolutely speak volumes. They are all images that convey aggression and hostility. There's no actual violence shown, but the potential for it seems to be present in most every frame. And the aggressors are pretty clearly the ones who are being called peacemakers in this video. The soundtrack of the video is a dark cover version of the song, "Everybody Wants to Rule the World." So the idea behind the video is pretty clearly that there are bad people out there who want to take over the world, and that justifies the aggression and the violence of the so-called peacemakers. Their aggression is the only thing that can counter the evil of everyone else who wants to rule the world. So all of that amounts to a pretty clear commentary on this one verse from the Gospel of Matthew. It is telling us in no uncertain terms what Jesus meant when he spoke of peacemakers. What he meant, apparently, is that the world is full of people who want to rule the world in order to destroy the world. They are the enemies. They are the other. The ones who are different from us. And given, of course, that this video celebrates the work of ICE, they are immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, and some members of minority communities. And if that is the situation, well, apparently there's only one response. Such enemies pose such a danger to peace that they must be defeated with overwhelming violence and repression. Therefore, it's saying, the peacemaker is the one who engages in such violence. This interpretation is also saying that Jesus said that those who carry out that kind of violence are blessed. They are endowed with divine favor. It also, I think, implies that they are men. The ad uses, as I said, the English Standard Version translation. And the ESV is the only major translation that translates the final part of that verse as sons of God. It does that, as they explain in the preface to the translation, for dogmatic, not grammatical reasons. So the word in the original context in the Gospel of Matthew means children. Even the King James Version translated as children over 400 years ago, but the makers of this ad chose to use an outlier translation for a reason. For they are also declaring that the kind of peacemaking they are talking about is a masculine endeavor, something done by burly men. And because such peacemaking is using violence, it's being done, we're told, to protect the vulnerable, the feminine women, perhaps particularly represented by their boss, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, that's a whole lot to pack into a very short video, but I think it's all there. And I don't think the people who made this video would disagree with me. This is the message they're trying to get across. So my question is that a good interpretation of this verse? Is that what Jesus meant when he said it? Wow. I mean, finally, my years of training pay off. I get to say something relevant to the present conversation. First time for everything, I guess. I don't know if I can handle the pressure. So, is that what Jesus meant when he spoke of peacemakers? Was he talking about people who use violence to eliminate those who are different or who disagree with you? Is that how you achieve peace, by silencing dissent and suppressing those who resist? It admittedly can result in a state where there is no conflict. And if that's not peace, well, then what is, right? Actually, such an idea of peace did exist in the time of Jesus. It was called the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. And it had been established by none other than Caesar Augustus. Augustus sent his legions all over the world, and they, using the latest in military tech, destroyed everyone who disagreed with them. until there was no one to oppose what Augustus wanted to do. And there weren't any more wars. And so Augustus proclaimed that he had established universal peace. He even built himself a massive peace prize. He called it the Altar of Peace in Rome. And the world that Jesus lived in was under the Roman peace. And in that world, anyone who was opposed to what Rome wanted to do or who withheld what Rome wanted to take was brutally eliminated. So Jesus knew that concept of peacemaking, totally understood it, could have embraced it. So is that what he's referring to in this verse? The answer to that question is simply no. No, the kind of peacemaking that Jesus is talking about cannot be achieved by using violence to defeat those who threaten the tranquility you want. We see that in the very word that Jesus used. The word is irenopoio. Irenopoioi. And it has a dual meaning. It's as much about doing peaceful things as it is about bringing about a peaceful outcome. And so that means you can't make peace without being peaceful. At least not the kind of peace that Jesus is talking about. That becomes clear when we see the very same word being used in the letter to the Ephesians. There the writer declares that Jesus himself is our peace, and that he made peace, same word, he made peace by bringing down the dividing wall, bringing people together with God into a new humanity. And most of all, it states that Jesus made this peace by sacrificing himself on the cross. So, the kind of peace that Jesus is talking about can only be made by bringing people together, not by seclusion or segregation. And it can't be made by acts of war, but only by acts of peace. It cannot be made by insisting that everyone do everything your way, but by acts of self-sacrifice and mercy. And so, let me speak with clarity in my own area of expertise and declare that this biblical commentary made by the American Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency is wrong. Let me further suggest that maybe federal agencies should avoid trying to interpret the Bible. Seems that their efforts will not only lead to bad interpretations, but also to some pretty dark places. But I can hear their objections from here. Maybe even some of yours as well. And the objection is if that's what Jesus means, well, Jesus must be wrong. The objection is that you can't make peace like that without knocking a few heads together. That's not how it works in the real world. And that's the objection that people always make, not only to this verse, but to everything that Jesus says in this passage we read from the gospel this morning. Because none of it's practical. None of it seems to work in the real world. The poor in spirit seem neither happy nor blessed because of their situation. The meek hardly seem to be poised to inherit the earth. On the contrary, it is the aggressive and the violent who seem to be just about to take it over right now. And when you want to talk about people actually hungering and thirsting for righteousness, people who stand up for the sake of someone who's being harassed or arrested because their skin is darker or they are different, what happens? Are they blessed? No, we've seen it. They're not blessed. They're shot down in the street. So what Jesus says in this passage goes contrary to all of the wisdom of the world. And if you want to reject what he says here, you will not be alone. So I fully expect that the world will continue to try and make peace by violently attacking those who would oppose them. But for my part, I will continue to believe what Jesus said. Those who try to create peace by using the weapons of war may be able to create for a while a bit of space where they get to do whatever they want and no one dares to challenge them. The strong and the wealthy may think that they will inherit the earth by their exercise of power. But I will know they will ultimately fail. The peace you create through violence will never be a lasting peace, because Jesus is right. You can't make peace that way. Jesus came to announce a different way of doing things, a different kind of kingdom. He called it the kingdom of God. And maybe if we can get past denouncing his approach and declaring it'll never work, maybe we could get the kind of peace that would last. Because it is the kind of peace that transforms the world, rather than imposing tranquility upon it. Lord, grant us true peace. Amen.